Living your dream job or just the title. Now, if you are a woman in leadership and you're finding yourself working and checking your emails even before you've had breakfast and you're running out the door with a task list that's as long as your arm, and then still finding yourself coming home at the end of the day and needing to catch up on the couch with emails or presentations, or you're getting called out by your kids or your husband or your partner that it's time to shut the computer off at the end of the night, then this one is for you today. So let's dig into this because I wanted to share this from a personal perspective of myself. So when I looked at what my dream career was look like 10 years ago, it was to hold a senior executive leadership position, having that global influence and responsibility within the organization, as well as in increasing my presence in the industry, earning over a six-figure salary, embracing growth because I wanted to get some more challenging roles, having more responsibilities, as well as using my knowledge and my expertise to guide and mentor and coach others. So what I found on that path, right, is that I had at one point I had landed what I perceived as being my absolute dream job. Absolutely loved it. And in the beginning it was fantastic. It was what I wanted. And here's what I was doing as well. I was getting up at 6 a.m. I wasn't didn't even have time for breakfast. I was lucky that my husband, he would just actually make my breakfast for me and I would eat it on the run in the car. And I would be scrolling through my emails as I had gotten up just to make sure I hadn't missed anything. And as a result, I was also working through to the into the evenings, clocking probably a good 60 to 80 hours on average every week, often being one of the first to arrive, but also one of the last to leave. And during my days were filled with back-to-back meetings, constantly overseeing my team to ensure that they were doing things right, the results were coming in, and really, in a sense, micromanaging my team at that point in time. On the way home, it was no different because the time in the car, I could be useful. So I would be having business calls while I was commuting. And then it would be really quick dinners and then right back to the grind. And in the beginning, this was like, oh, yeah, but I have this. I want to invest this in this job. I want to invest this as a part of building that and advancing my career and developing into that executive role. But here's the thing, it just wasn't sustainable at all. And there are events that, so for example, I remember that my grandmother passed away and I was just like, oh my God, I can't take any time off. Yes, I took the day off of the funeral, but I had family flying in from overseas. I had, of course, all these extra additional things that were happening. I had to was taking part in the funeral service, and I just didn't feel like I was in a position that I could even take that one single day off or even a couple of days off, because what would happen in my role? Would I be then less valuable? What would people think of me, that I can't handle the responsibilities while I'm also dealing with a family a personal family loss? And as I reflect back now, I just think, oh my goodness, how crazy was I to think that? How crazy was I to put myself under that much pressure and the expectations that high and putting all of that work in? And at the worst, and the worst part of it was it wasn't getting recognized on the other side. It didn't automatically transfer into a promotion, into a next senior leadership role. I was creating the results, I was putting in the time, but it was costing me both mostly personally, a lot, because I started to wonder, well, how am I going to fit all of this in and then still have time for my own personal ambitions? I was working so much. I wanted to outwork everyone else because that's how what I thought that would lead to success. I knew I had great ideas. I had a lot of experience. I had a good knowledge. I had an MBA in my back pocket. And even with all of that, I would still find that my ideas at times were sidelined, that I just wasn't able to create the outcomes that I wanted to get to. I didn't have the influence that I wanted, and I wasn't being pulled into being a part of the decision making or determining that future strategic direction of the organization. And so I started to question, well, what's going on? What have I done wrong? And here's the thing. Yes, we look at ourselves as this is everything that I've done wrong, but my need to overwork and in the end of the day, finding myself being overlooked when it came time for promotions, feeling undervalued was just immense. And it became this, I had this the title and I what I thought was my dream job at the very beginning. And in the end, it just turned into being a very toxic environment for myself because I was starting to doubt whether I was even worth being able to grow into a next leadership role, into an executive role. And I kept having this quiet question lingering in the back of my mind of like, well, am I the problem? Is there something wrong with me? And those questions and that sense of feeling not good enough would continue to fester until finally something had to give. And I needed to change something in my narrative. I needed to change how I looked at the world. I had to change how I looked at roles and how I defined my own personal success. And when I look back today, so looking back where I was 10 years ago to today I own my own business. I partner with the most amazing women leaders to shatter through glass ceilings, to accelerate their careers, to create the visibility for themselves so that they command and own the rooms that they're in. People listen to their ideas. They are sought out to take on strategic projects. They are sought out for promotional opportunities. They're becoming industry experts. And all of that while still staying true to their own values of themselves, but also for me. My time is mine. So I love spending time with my family. Family is a very important piece of my life. And I'm also not seeking out that external validation anymore like I was 10 years ago, which was causing me to work extremely long hours. Everything would have to be checked whether or not I could make it work around my work. That was priority number 1. Any kind of family crisis, well, it had to happen either in a weekend or in the evenings because then I was a little bit more flexible. We all know that does not happen. You cannot plan those kinds of things. So now I know my own worth and I've shifted from really pleasing others to ensuring that my own well being is prioritized. I am no less ambitious because if you hear the conversations I have with my mentors and my own coaches and my business mentors, you think like, oh, I've got massive dreams. I have got massive ambitions for my business. And I have figured out how, and I partner with all the amazing women that I work with, is how to create that amazingly sustainable success for yourself. So being able to create and live out your career ambitions while still having time for yourself. And that's what I have done, but that's what I have worked with 60 plus women leaders over the last 2.5 years do the same. Now, you may ask, well, how did you do that? Because fantastic story, but now you want to do the same thing. So if I was to look back, and all of what I'm about to share with you is within the Leadership Edge formula, and it is a really core part of what is what I share and what I work with my clients on within the Leadership Accelerator. And this is what I would share. And these are the things that I would do is lead with your core values. And here's the kicker. When I ask, what are your core values? Like 8 out of 10 people won't be able to really give me an answer. I might get a global sense of it, but when you really go into it, it's like, well, do you really know how you make your decisions? What are your values that you just use to decide what you're going to do? Second is an unwavering self belief in yourself and a deep knowledge of your own worth. Because too often, what I have seen is that women that I've worked with, and I did this in the past too, is that my worth and my value was attached to the title and the success that I was achieving within my career and on the outside. Number 3, communication is a superpower. We have learned, as long as from being raised, to be very rational and logical in our communication, being very data driven. And there is definitely a place for that. And yet you're missing a chunk of that in terms of how you can be persuasive to other people, because all that you're doing is using that logical, data driven information. And in reality, 80% of your decisions are made unconsciously, where it has much more to do with how does it make me feel? Will I, for example, are you trying to convince one of your leaders to take on a project? Then you're much more persuasive when you can paint the picture of how that idea or your suggestion will lead to a successful outcome. Now, number 4, and this was a really key one for me as well, is to be your own biggest advocate. When I look back at how my dream job turned into a toxic environment, both for myself mentally, but also really just in the environment itself, a lot had to do with me just accepting what the treatment and the lack of respect, because I thought, well, that's what I need to do in order to be able to grow through it, to be seen as a leader, to be promoted. And if you're finding yourself in that situation, realize that you need to be your biggest advocate. But in order to do that and to make all of those other 3 steps work, so the other 3 steps of leading with your values, unwavering self belief, communication, and now your advocacy, is to really create a very strong and very powerful leadership mindset, because that is likely the biggest missing component for you when it comes to realizing and creating that sustainable success for yourself. And when it comes to really defining your success, or I should say, not only defining it, but also actually achieving that sustainable success where the ambitions that you have for your career can be realized, along with creating that personal joy and that personal life that you desire. Now, I'm going to give you a little opportunity. Each and every week, I have a few spots open. They're very limited. The spots for this week were already filled out within 2 days. So if you are looking for some additional support, you can feel free to reach out and DM me ambitions so you can find out some more on what that's like. As well, I would encourage you I have a few spots available next week for a 30-minute leadership audit. And this is where we go deep into your leadership challenges and how you are right now within your leadership role, and you get some personalized strategies by the end of those 30 minutes. So if that is something that you're interested in, make sure to DM me audit to get a spot on my calendar next week as quickly as possible, because as I said, those spots fill up incredibly quickly. I just want to thank you again. Just to summarize, if you're finding yourself wondering, well, are you living your dream, or are you just, have you dreamt of a title and it's falling flat for you? Then here's a couple of things for you that I want you to do. One is to consider, what are your core values, and always lead from your core values. Two is create that unwavering self-belief in yourself. Three, communicate, because communication is going to be your superpower. So find ways to communicate, not only on the rational logical part that matches the thinking brain, but also that influences the feelings and the unconscious part of the brain of those that you're speaking to, your leaders, your colleagues, your team. And finally, be your biggest advocate. So make sure you're coming up and standing up for yourself by also ensuring that you have an incredibly powerful leadership mindset, because that is going to be the cornerstone to your success. All right, love to share this with you. If you've got any questions, as always, drop them in my inbox. And like I said, if you are ready to define your own definition of success and create sustainable success in your career that you love, then DM me ambition to find out more. And I know I'm doing two things you could do, but the other alternative is a 30-minute call with me, or you get a leadership audit where we dive deep into what is going on with your leadership, where are the challenges you're experiencing in your role, and how, and give you some strategies on what it is that you can do to succeed from there. And that is, you can DM me audit when you're interested in that. Thank you so much for listening. I will speak to you again next week and wish you all a fantastic weekend.